history has often painted pirates as nothing more than ruthless thieves. Men who spent their days chasing treasure and their nights drowning in rum and chaos. But behind the roar of cannon fire and the glint of cutlasses lay a society far more complicated than most people realize. A floating world built on its own rules, rich in traditions that could be both practical and unexpectedly clever. These weren't just criminals of the sea. They were survivors, inventors, and masters of adaptation, each with tricks up their sleeves or more accurately in their ears. Take the matter of their jewelry, for example. Those shiny earrings weren't just for swagger or intimidation. They were tools, lifelines, even passports in a world without paper IDs. When the deafening roar of cannons threatened to rob them of their hearing, a quick-thinking pirate might pluck one of his own earrings, melt down the precious metal to soften its wax seal, and fashion makeshift earplugs. Imagine that fashion that doubled as battlefield gear. The next time someone questions your accessory choices, you could always tell them you're re-preparing for the day a cannon fires next to your head. Nearly 7 out of every 10 captured pirates wore at least one earring, and for good reason. These weren't random trinkets, they often bore engravings, a name, a hometown, the port they hailed from. In an age before dog tags, such markings could mean the difference between a nameless grave at sea and a proper burial back home. In some Caribbean ports, the style of your earring could even betray your origins. A modest silver stud might hint you were from the Spanish Main, while a large gold hoop could mark you as someone from the Barbary Coast. It was a kind of primitive social network, broadcasting where you'd been and who you'd sailed with. For the truly resourceful, these bits of metal became a portable bank account. Far from home and needing to bribe a harbor master or secure supplies, you could literally pay straight from your ear. Of course, that left you with a choice: keep your hearing protection or buy your way out of trouble. But earrings weren't the only unexpected tool in a pirate's arsenal. Long before the age of high-tech military night vision, pirates had worked out their own method of seeing in the dark, the iconic eye patch. Popular belief says these patches covered a missing eye, perhaps lost in a duel. In truth, many pirates wore them over perfectly healthy eyes. Why? Because they understood a simple fact of biology. The human eye takes about 25 minutes to adjust from bright sunlight to darkness. A dangerous delay if you needed to chase someone below deck in the middle of a fight. Their solution was deceptively brilliant. Keep one eye always adjusted to the dark. Above deck, they'd wear the patch. When it came time to descend into the shadowy hold, they'd simply flip it up, giving them instant night vision in one eye. There's an old tale of a crew laughing at the sight of a ship manned by one-eyed pirates only to be caught completely off guard. When those half-blind raiders stormed, their cargo hold with uncanny speed cutting through the gloom while their victims stumbled like drunks. Some inventive sailors even designed hinged patches that could be flipped up or down. Though these worked less well in rough seas there, it's nothing intimidating about a fearsome pirate repeatedly slapping himself in the face with his own eye patch. Eventually, some ships standardized which eye to cover after one humiliating incident where an entire crew wore their patches on the same side. Blundering into each other like confused crabs in the dark, even naval officers adopted the technique, dressing it up with a more official-sounding name, something like tactical monocular light adaptation. Pirates may not have had fancy schooling, but they knew a good idea when they saw it, especially if they could steal it. And speaking of leaving marks, pirates were pioneers in another area of personal identity: tattoos. Centuries before modern influencers made them fashionable, pirates had embraced body art for both symbolic and practical reasons. The practice came to them through encounters in the Pacific, particularly with Polynesian cultures, who had perfected tattooing over generations. True to form, pirates took this art and made it their own. Each image told a story. An anchor meant you'd crossed the Atlantic. A detailed ship could signify a vessel you'd served on. Nautical stars marked your rank or navigational skill, while mermaids were a sign of an experienced guide through dangerous waters. The skull and crossbones on your arm meant you'd survived something deadly, sometimes more than once. But tattoos weren't just about boasting. They were a practical form of identification. By the 18th century, more than 80% of captured pirates had tattoos, effectively creating one of the world's first criminal databases. A pirate trying to pass himself off as an honest merchant might forget that the mermaid on his forearm gave him away. Some designs were thought to carry protection, Roosters inked on the feet were said to ward off drowning. Names of ships, ports, or loved ones ensured that, should the sea claim you, there'd be something to tell the tale of who you were. Pirates even had their own form of insurance, a system called metelitage. This was no casual friendship but a formal partnership where two pirates shared everything: earnings, possessions, even inheritance rights. Nearly 40% of some crews formed these bonds. If one died, the other inherited everything, from gold coins to a stash of stolen silk handkerchiefs. They'd watch each other's backs in battle, care for one another when sick, and divide plunder with precision. French authorities once tried to break these partnerships by introducing women into pirate ports, thinking romance would scatter them. Instead, pirates simply adapted, expanding their agreements to include spouses. These partnerships often lasted decades longer than many marriages of the time, and some captains even refused to hire men without a partner, knowing paired pirates fought better and stole less from each other. Leadership, of course, came in many forms, and some captains turned the art of intimidation into a weapon sharper than any cutlass. One such figure transformed himself into a floating nightmare, weaving slow-burning fuses into his beard, so that in the misty dawn, enemy ships would see smoke pouring from his face. Merchant crews would surrender without a shot fired, convinced they faced something supernatural. His theatrics inspired others. Captains who painted their faces with ash and animal blood, dressed entirely in crimson, or trained parrots to shriek death threats in multiple languages. These psychological tactics were so effective that some merchant ships began carrying terror payments, bribes, set aside specifically for infamous captains. Because paying was safer than resisting, not everyone's attempts at menace worked, though. Some smoke effects ended in coughing fits, costumes tangled in rigging, and speeches cut short by seasickness. One pirate even learned the hard way that wearing all black just made him an easier target for sharpshooters. While intimidation could win battles without a single cannonball, survival at sea depended on more than fear. Pirates are famously linked to rum, but their most important drink was grogga, mixture of rum, water, citrus juice, and sugar. The British Navy had introduced the concept to combat scurvy, and pirates improved it with spices or honey. It wasn't just tasty, it was practical. The alcohol kept water from going foul, citrus warded off scurvy, and the sugar provided a quick boost of energy. Crews often rationed it, using extra servings as rewards, or withholding it as punishment. The right amount kept pirates in that ideal state: alert enough to fight, relaxed enough to face impossible odds without flinching. The world of piracy wasn't just a man's game either. History records at least 20 women commanding ships in the early 1700s, many of them disguising themselves as men until they'd proven themselves in battle. Some were from wealthy families who rejected arranged marriages. Others had served in the military in disguise. A few began as captives, later taking over the very ships that had once held them. In one famous case, 2 women were the only crew members to fight back against a boarding party, while the rest of their ship's men hid below deck, too drunk to stand. Even facing execution, these women showed more courage than most of their male peers. In the rough democracy of pirate life, skill and loyalty mattered more than gender. Punishment on a pirate ship could be swift and brutal. Forget the Hollywood plank that was mostly fiction. Real consequences included keel hauling, where a person was dragged under the barnacle-covered hull, often leaving them shredded or drowned. Marooning, abandoning someone on a deserted island with minimal supplies, was another favorite. For smaller offenses, a crew might tie you to the mast during a storm or reduce your grog rations. Some punishments were bizarre, forcing a thief to eat an entire stolen cheese wheel in front of the crew, or assigning a liar to crow's nest duty in the worst weather. Pirates had a knack for inventing penalties that mixed humiliation with hardship. Perhaps their greatest tool for psychological warfare was the flag. The infamous Jolly Roger wasn't a single design, but a whole language of fear. A black flag might offer mercy if you surrendered. A red one meant no survivors. Some flags featured skeletons with hourglasses, bleeding hearts, or weapon-silent promises of what awaited the defiant. Skilled flag makers in port cities could earn small fortunes creating these symbols. Though not every design inspired terror, some early attempts looked more like drunken doodles than death warrants. Still, a well-known flag could make 70% of merchant ships surrender without a fight, saving ammunition and cargo alike. Life aboard wasn't all violence and fear. Pirates kept animals both for practical purposes and companionship. Cats were valued for keeping rats at bay, sometimes even earning shares of plunder. Monkeys could climb rigging and on raids, snatch valuables from pockets and belts. Chickens provided eggs. Goats gave milk until they chewed through ropes or maps. Some captains kept parrots, tortoises, or even bears. Pets became part of the crew, given proper burials at sea when they died. In a world of storms and battles, these animals offered moments of comfort, a reminder that even the fiercest pirate was still human. And that, perhaps, is the truth that hides behind the myths. Pirates were more than cutthroats and thieves. They were inventors, traders, friends, artists, and animal lovers. They built a culture as deep and unpredictable as the seas. They sailed a culture where an earring could save your life and eye. Patch could turn you into a master of the dark, and a flag could win a battle before it began. The ocean was their home, their battlefield, and their grave. But within that dangerous world, they created something entirely their own, an uncharted map of traditions, secrets, and stories still worth telling today.